Welcome back. This time we are going to look at our next question, which is, how did the universe begin? That's a fair question, and we're going to look at it from a couple of different angles. So let's start with one scientific view, and that view is that the universe is 13.8 billion years old. It goes back to an incident called the Big Bang, or the Big Bang theory. And the theory goes that today we have the universe, it's expanding. So if we just take it backwards from expansion, it's going to go back all the way to a single point. And then at that single point, that's when the universe began, all the physical matter and energy. And before that point in time, we can't see any further back. So based purely on science, the universe, the physical universe, had a beginning point. Now let's take a look at another way, which is really a thought experiment. You probably have heard it before. If not, that's okay. Take an example, this desk. Did this desk create itself? And obviously the answer is no. There was something that came before this desk, whether it was the tree that was used for the materials or the person that formed that wood into a desk. So we have something that came before it. And so if we look at that tree or we look at that person, we know that something came before them, their parent or the tree seed before the tree. And so if we take a look at people, for example, we keep going back through a line of ancestry, and we can see that there's always one before the other. Now there's different theories on like how humans came to where they are today, but eventually you get back to a point where the first two people, and before that, the world. And then before that, you had the sky, the stars, the sun, matter, and then eventually you can't just keep going back forever. It just doesn't make sense. If we look at physics, everything in motion has to be put into motion first. So it doesn't make sense for just matter or the physical universe to just always be in constant motion forever. There's no model that we can see that. So we don't actually pick a model that doesn't make any sense. We have no evidence for it. So for example, in nature, there's no such thing as a perpetual motion machine. If we never see that in our world, we can't make the conclusion that the universe is just a perpetual motion machine that has no beginning and end. So it's not logical, has no scientific proof behind it. For all intents and purposes, we look at physics and our own thought experiment, there has to be a beginning to the universe. It can't go back forever. And so our thought experiment and science also comes to the same conclusion, that it began at a single point. Now, why is that important? It's because that makes sense with the idea of God. If you look at Christian point of view, that's exactly what the Bible says, is that everything came from a point. And so God was there. He can actually create the physical world. He's all-powerful, all-knowing, and so he can create whatever he wants, including the universe. And so we're inside the universe. We can only see what's in the universe, but we can detect that there was a beginning, and that actually makes sense and is in sync with what we believe about God. So just by looking at the question, how did the universe begin, we can actually see or conclude that God was there in the beginning. And that's just a reasonable explanation. It would actually be unreasonable for someone who is like a scientist to say, well, we believe in science all the time, except when it all proves that there was a beginning point at the Big Bang. Well, all of a sudden, no, we don't believe that. We just believe that the universe just kept going on its own. See, that's just faith without reason. If we're going to use science, then just be consistent wherever it leads to. Now, if you're a believer of faith, we're not totally reliant on scientific theory either. So the Big Bang, we're not putting all our marbles in it and saying it has to be that way. So for example, let's say some people have speculated this idea of the multiverse, where there's multiple universes come and go, come and go. But in the future, let's say there was some proof of that. Well, you still have the question, well, how does the first multiverse get started in order to create the others? So it doesn't really hurt our faith at all. If the Big Bang itself was proven not to be true, it doesn't hurt us. But for what we know right now, it lines up very well with what we believe. So yes, how did the universe begin? Another indication to help us believe in God. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you for the next question. Welcome. Our question is, where does intelligence come from? Well, if you can even ask that question, you've got some intelligence, right? Or like, what's my purpose in the world? It's a really intelligent question. I mean, I don't think that rocks ever ask that question, or other animals. It's only us intelligent humans that can ask that question. And so you have to think, well, how can intelligence exist? Some people theorize that the universe was just always there. There's no intelligence in it. But if you think about it, how can something that has no intelligence, has no reason for being, has no purpose, doesn't know what love is, how can that create a being that is loving, wants to be loved, is intelligent, can ask questions like, where did I come from? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Striving to be more. What happens after death? These are all very intelligent questions. Like, it doesn't make any sense that such an intelligent being can exist from a universe who has no clue, no idea what those concepts are. And so we're more intelligent than a perpetual universe. So that idea, there's no scientific basis for it other than just idea of scientific faith, but there's really no evidence for it to have something that is dumber or actually not even has no intelligence at all creating something that's intelligent. Now let's look at, if God was there in the beginning, God is all powerful and intelligent. He has the intelligence to create the whole universe and everything we see in it, and more. Every time we look through telescopes and we learn new things, it's really amazing how many galaxies, like billions of stars and galaxies. It's unbelievable how much is out there. And God created it all, and He's got the intelligence to do more. So the universe, we don't know. He could have created all kinds of different things. We're not putting a limit on God. But what does make sense is that if He's intelligent, He can create anything He wants, including matter, energy, time, non-intelligent beings, intelligent beings, like us. And in the Bible it says we are created in God's image and likeness. And so that does make sense in that we have this super intelligent being who then can choose to create creatures who have a lesser intelligence but have some intelligence, and it's kind of built in them. It's like, you don't have to teach somebody these questions. It's like built into our souls, in that as we go through life, we start asking these questions like, why am I here? What's my purpose? What's going to happen after I die? What's out there? Like, I'm really curious to find what's out there. I want to do stuff. I want to work and create things. And so it really just shows an abundance of intelligence within us that God, who's supreme intelligence, could very well create. And so that makes perfect sense that an intelligence in this universe had its beginnings in a greater intelligence. Another indication there that God exists and it came from him. So hope that helps answer this question, and look forward to a bunch more. Today we're going to do a lasagna garden. One of the first things you want to look for is the best spot where you have a lot of sun. Now, in our last recording, I was showing a different part of the garden. I was thinking of extending the garden out another 8 feet. But when I looked more carefully at the trees nearby and the shade that they were producing over the course of the day, I realized that wasn't the best spot, and I had a sunnier location. So this time we're going to move it, and we are going to be in a sunnier spot. Now, in this particular video, you don't see any sun because it's really the end of the day. But this corner of the garden definitely has the most sun for me. So you may not have a choice, but if you do, try to find the sunniest spot. To get our lasagna garden started, what is a lasagna garden? First of all, it is a way to kill the grass and build up layers on top of it so that you can then plant in the spring and have some soil. And the lasagna part of it that you're building up is going to be providing nutrients to the soil over time. Not immediately, but over time it'll break down and then it'll seep down into the ground and then get to the roots. One of the benefits of lasagna gardening is that it's blocking the weeds. And I would say for first-time gardeners or new people or even older people doing it, weeding is one of the most difficult parts of gardening. And if you're not expecting it, that's a lot of work. And if you don't keep on top of it, or you let your soil be bare, weeds will grow in there, and then you'll have to do that maybe 3 times a year, really heavy weeding. And it's a lot of work to pull those roots out. So we're going to try to just eliminate that by covering the weeds as much as possible. You'll never get 100%, but you can get close. And so we're going to block out all the light from the ground underneath. And to start out, to do that, we're going to use cardboard. So if you order a lot of things online, you can find a dumpster, or you have a source of cardboard, maybe family and friends. Get the cardboard wherever you can, and just start small and build gradually. So here is a section. I had enough cardboard to do one section, manageable. In the future I want to do some more, but the key is just do it in smaller sections that you can actually do. Now in my example here, I'm doing about 10 by 10. If I fence it in, it'll probably be more like 8 by 8, but it's something that's manageable for me. Your garden might be smaller. It might be a raised garden with a 4 by 8. And so if you do a 4 by 8 raised bed, you need less cardboard, less soil, less materials for your lasagna garden, and it's going to be easier. So what I'm saying here is just start out simple. Don't overdo it, because the larger your garden gets in this approach, the more work it's going to be. Cardboard is really good for a couple of purposes. It helps block out all the grass underneath, and also the worms love it. So once you get that down there and it starts decomposing, the worms are going to come up and start eating the cardboard, and at the same time they're going to make a lot of paths inside the ground and aerate your soil, and they're going to leave worm castings behind, which are very good nutrients for your soil. So we're going to let the worms do most of our underground work. Now, if you're younger or if you have a lot of energy and you want to dig your bed first, you can. It's just a matter of how much time and energy you have. You can do a double dig bed or a single dig bed, or if you have a tiller, I would say it's okay to till your ground once the first time, but we want to avoid tilling it every year because it'll destroy the structure of the ground, kill your worms, and so we're not going to do it here every year, but if you want to do it the first time, that's okay. So we're going to cover the soil with the cardboard, and then the next thing we're going to do is use our composted material. Now in my I'm near woods, so I found some really well composted leaf mulch, very finely decomposed almost all the way here. So this is really good stuff, black gold I call it, and I don't have a lot of it, but enough to cover the first layer of cardboard, and that's going to help decompose the cardboard and provide the first level of nutrients that are going to get down once the cardboard is broken down. And the cardboard is only going to take a couple of months to break down once it's covered by other things. So let's go ahead and cover the cardboard and see what that looks like. Now we're going to add another layer, and what I have available is really the last grass of the year and leaves. We're going to put down a layer of fresh lawn clippings and leaves. I just mowed them yesterday, and I want to get the last bit of nitrogen from the grass clippings into our lasagna garden. And it's not broken down at all yet, it's just mixed in with the leaves, chopped up, and I'm going to put that as a layer. Okay, now that we have our cardboard covered, one thing we don't want to do is we don't want this to blow away in the wind. So we want to put some covering or heavy things on it. And in this case, what I have available to me is I have a lot of branches I just cleaned up from the yard, and I'm just going to put them on top of it. If you ever heard of hugelkultur, it's putting in sticks and logs and things in your garden, and those are going to break down over a long period of time, maybe a year, a couple of years. That's okay. We're just covering our cardboard here, building another layer in our lasagna garden. Now just be careful, we don't want to mix this into our soil. It'd be actually robbing nitrogen at first. So this is just on the top layer. And then finally, as our last layer, I have some older leaves, 10% maybe broken down, so we're going to put them on top just to cover it and help the sticks and logs underneath decompose a little bit faster. If they're covered and bugs and bacteria can get to them faster, they'll break down a little bit quicker. So again, the purpose here is to just build up your lasagna garden with whatever you have. It could be cardboard, leaf mold, or chopped up leaves, really nice compost, could be sticks, You can even put food in there. I would say go easy on it. You might want to put your food in a normal compost pile and let it decompose or compost over the course of a few months, and then put it in the garden. But at this point in time, our lasagna garden is going to be sitting here for a few months. So if you want to put a few vegetables, table scraps, leftover garden plants, you could do that too. But I usually put them into the compost pile so they break down a little bit better over there. So there you go. Start small, add layers, and then over time you can just keep adding more. So it's an ongoing process. You don't have to do it all in a day. I didn't do this all in a day. I actually collected the materials over the course of a couple of days, made some piles, and then spent another day just laying it out here and putting the layers on top. And you can start half the size of what I have here, a quarter of the size, whatever size works for you. Remember, we're in God's creation. Enjoy the nature He's provided for us, and God bless. Thank you for joining us this time, and here is an extra reflection for you.